All right, so we can go ahead and get started in just a moment. Welcome everybody. My name is Phil Potter. I'm a staff associate with SUNY's Got Your Back, and I use pronouns he, him, his. This session is titled Preparing LGBTQ plus students for career challenges, the LGBTQ plus career readiness certificate at SUNY Geneseo. Your speaker is Charlotte Wade, who uses pronouns she, her, hers, or they, them, theirs, coordinator of LGBTQ programs and services at SUNY Geneseo. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Charlotte.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. Hi everyone, how are you doing? My name is Charlotte Wade and my pronouns are she and they. I am the coordinator of LGBTQ programs and services within the Center for Community at SUNY Geneseo. First off, I want to thank the Spectrum Conference for having me this afternoon. So today I will be presenting about the unique challenges and barriers that LGBTQ professionals face in their careers, as well as some of the challenges that career services professionals and higher education institutions are facing in preparing young professionals for these barriers. And then finally, I will walk you through the brand new LGBTQ plus career readiness certificate at SUNY Geneseo. And we'll talk about how this certificate has helped provide students with identity-specific, holistic career supports. Before I get started, I would like to thank a few people for their mentorship, their collaboration, and support of this new program and this presentation. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Mike Taberski, Vice President for Student and Campus Life, Robbie Rautenberg, Chief Diversity Officer, Dr. Lenny Sansilio, Dean of Students, Dr. Sasha Elwa Evans, Director of Multicultural Programs and Services, Jesse Stack Lombardo, Director of Career Development, and Nicholas Palumbo, Assistant Dean of Students for Leadership and Service. All of these people had a hand in making this program possible, so I want to take a moment to thank them. I would also like to thank my predecessor in the LGBTQ coordinator role, Unisha Tucker, for identifying this opportunity for growth at SUNY Geneseo and for laying the foundation for this certificate program. I want to speak a little bit about the lenses and perspectives I am bringing to this presentation. I am a queer person, both in terms of my gender and my sexuality. I am a member of both privileged and marginalized identity categories. And my experience of queerness is unique to me. And my experience of my career and queerness within my career is unique to me. I utilize research and student development theories in my work. And I also utilize my own personal experiences as a queer person and as a young professional. As the LGBTQ coordinator at SUNY Geneseo, I mainly do three things. The first thing is that I directly support LGBTQ students. That means students come to me with any or every challenge they may be facing. I offer one-on-one support. I run an LGBTQ support group. I assist students in navigating the institution, and I help them find resources. I attend and support Pride meetings. I create community spaces and events. Students come to me to speak about family, work, career, class, academics, roommates, housing, hunger, food insecurity, healthcare, mental health, dating, physical health, and culture, queer culture. I'm also an advocate. I serve on committees and I represent the needs of LGBTQ individuals on our campus. I assist the college in understanding the needs of LGBTQ students, and I assess college services for opportunities to improve upon supports in regards to gender and sexual minorities. And I also help amplify the voices of students who don't always have the language to describe what they want or need. Part of my job involves a lot of collaboration and coalition building with other divisions and departments. And this program is only possible because of that collaboration with other divisions and departments. Finally, I'm an educator. I educate through co-curricular activities, through programming, through workshops and training. I'm a resource to anyone who has questions about gender or sexuality, or anyone who would like to be a better ally. As we move through this presentation, feel free to put questions in the chat at any time. I may not get to your question right away, but I encourage you to add it anyway. I will leave some time at the end to answer questions. I also appreciate hearing your opinions and experiences. This presentation is also about your feelings and opinions and experiences. Feel free to contact me later if you'd like to connect. You can reach me at cwade@geneseo.edu. Let's talk about queerness at work. Queerness at work. So rooted in this conversation, there is a pretty powerful misconception or attitude in the world about LGBTQ people that I hear all the time. How many of you have ever heard something like this before? I'm not homophobic. I just don't want to see it in public. I don't want to see queer people in public. Just keep it behind closed doors. Being trans is fine, but do you have to bring it up all the time? I see that there's some stuff in the chat. Yep, we've heard it. Don't be too gay at work. Just keep things professional. Has anyone ever said something like this to you? If you're comfortable, I invite you to share some of your experiences in the chat. What things have people said to you? I don't know about you, but I can't take my queerness off when I go to work. Queerness is something that I take with me everywhere because it's part of who I am. And for me in particular, it's also something that people can tell about me because of the way that I look. You know, we can talk about passing or not passing. And also my job title outs me. You know, I've had other jobs where I was closeted because that was what I chose at the time. But at this job, my job title is LGBTQ. So people make that assumption about me, and that's okay with me at this point in my life. Throughout history, and still today, LGBTQ people have had to hide in public and conform to normative narratives about gender and sexuality in order to survive. Sometimes LGBTQ people have to make difficult choices to survive. And for some people, staying closeted is the safest or most desirable option. And I just want to mention being closeted is 100% valid if that's what works best for you. However, I'm all about choice. You know, the closet is not a solution to homophobia and transphobia. You know, we face homophobia and transphobia, so the solution is, oh, just don't tell anyone. That doesn't address the oppression, right? I would like to live in a world where LGBTQ people can pursue their professional goals without facing extra barriers. Attitudes like the ones we're talking about are particularly prevalent at work, right? Why is that? Because many of the ideas that we hold about professionalism are rooted in whiteness, are rooted in heterosexuality, in affluence, in masculinity. Think about the things that you have been told to do in order to be seen as a professional. Maybe talk a certain way, maybe wear certain clothes, emulate someone who has a lot of money or a specific type of education, maybe someone who comes from a specific cultural background or has a certain accent, certain word choice. These ideas about professionalism, about who can be seen as professional, these themes of heterosexuality, these themes of whiteness come up. Expressions of non-normative genders or sexualities in the workplace can be seen as unprofessional, taboo, irrelevant. This dynamic can create uncomfortable and potentially unsafe situations for LGBTQ professionals. If you'd like to, put in the chat something you have been told you have to do in order to be seen as a professional. I remember when I was a student in college, I went to a workshop about, being a professional. I think I was a freshman. And one of the things that the instructors told us was that in order to be seen as a professional at work, you had to wear makeup. And I've thought about it ever since because I felt conflicted about it in many ways. What does it mean that, if I'm assigned female at birth, I have to wear makeup to work to be seen as a professional? Oh yeah, I see this in the chat. Wear appropriate attire. Have normal hair. What is normal hair? What is normal hair? Maybe it's white hair. Maybe it's not queer hair. We can talk about queer hair a little bit. Oh, wear makeup and straighten your hair. Yes. I skipped an interview who told his female clerk to wear skirts only. Yes. Natural hair color, no bright colors. So we're facing these things at work of, I want to be true to myself, but I want to be safe at work and I want to be successful. I want my work to speak for itself. I don't want people to be distracted or preoccupied with who I am, but also I need to be myself. I need to live authentically. For many people, that's the case. Any other thoughts or questions about queerness at work? Yes, an excuse for the status quo to get rid of marginalized folks. You are not professional. Yes. Told to straighten hair, dress a certain way. Thanks everyone for sharing. So we talked a bit about some of the foundational reasons why being a member of the LGBTQ community can impact a person's experience in the workplace. Let's get into some statistics and some specific barriers that LGBTQ people are facing. This is from GLAAD. 25% of LGBTQ people report experiencing discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender in the past year. Half of those reported that it negatively impacted their work environment. Same-sex couples experience workplace discrimination at rates higher than straight couples. More than 1 in 4 transgender people have lost a job due to bias, and more than 3/4 of trans people have experienced some form of workplace discrimination. LGBTQ people, especially trans women of color, are more likely to experience violence in the workplace. LGBTQ people face stereotypes and stereotype threat regarding which careers they should be doing. I think we can all think there are stereotypes out there about which jobs gay men do, or which job lesbians do, or which jobs transgender people do, or should do, or could be good at. So we have these ideas about how gender and sexuality can inform skill in some cases, or success. Those are stereotypes. The ability to work and have a job and have income is tied up in so many other issues, like transportation. What if you could get a job, but you don't have a way to get there? Or maybe you can't get to your job, so you can't get the money to pay for transportation. And maybe you don't have a job, so then you also don't have health insurance. So all these things are tied up. Maybe you don't have a job, you can't get health insurance, and you're also facing food insecurity. And maybe you're so hungry, it's hard for you to focus at work. It's hard for you to do your job. Or you're so hungry that you can't walk to work, and that's your only mode of transportation. These issues are all wrapped up in each other, and LGBTQ people are at the center of them. LGBTQ people are disproportionately impacted by all these issues. And so we're focusing in on career and the workplace as a potential site of change and as an intersection where we can really foster that change. It's an opportunity. In some places, workplace protections for gender and sexual minorities exist, but protections are inconsistent across countries, across states, across companies, across managers. There's a lot of variability and a lack of support for LGBTQ people facing workplace discrimination. Also, just because something is illegal doesn't mean it's not happening. It's still happening. LGBTQ people may lack the time, energy, or resources to advocate for themselves, to stand up for themselves, to fight back, to call a lawyer. LGBTQ people may unfortunately be used to discrimination. They may be tired. They may not know their rights. So there are a lot of issues at play. Hiring discrimination is a common experience of, unfortunately, among LGBTQ people. There are inadequate work systems. HR systems don't always account for trans people or dead names or degrees with different names on them or work uniforms that fall outside the binary. Maybe benefits packages don't consider same-sex couples. So there may be systems within workplaces that create barriers for LGBTQ people. There's also interpersonal bias, microaggressions. If you feel comfortable and you'd like to put in the chat a microaggression you've experienced at work, maybe a comment or a question, I have some written down. Are you a boy or a girl? You ever heard that one at work? What was your real name? You know, you ever had that curious coworker who wanted to know? Why do you dress like a man? These are questions that people get at work, and it can make workplace an uncomfortable place. I work all the time elsewhere. Boy or girl? Yeah, we have some good in here. As a non-binary plus size AFAB person, it's incredibly difficult for me to find accessible and affordable professional clothes that are not dysphoric for me to wear. Thanks for sharing that. Frequent misgendering. Dear, hun, call me a girl and not a woman. Yes. I'm not going to call her that regarding a client who's newly transitioning. Yes. Your friend, when a coworker was talking about a spouse. Yeah. Not roommates, everyone. I watched Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I did not realize your family acted that way. Okay. Yes. So if you're a member of the LGBTQ plus community in the workplace, you may have had to ask yourself these questions. Should I mention my same-sex partner at work? How do I tell my coworkers that I'm trans? This one has already come up. I am a queer professional on a budget. What do I wear to work? Or I've experienced homophobia or violence at my job. What do I do? So if you're comfortable, I invite you to share some other questions or workplace barriers you have faced in the chat. Some that I have had to ask myself are, should I put my pronouns on my resume? What if they aren't normative pronouns? You know, what if it outs me to put my pronouns on my resume? Will my career suffer if I cut my hair short and I look queer? That was something I wrestled with for a long time. Does anybody else have any examples of questions or conundrums they've had to ask themselves? I'd love to see more in the chat if you'd like to share. Someone disregarding preferred pronouns and when corrected, oh, whatever, oops. Can you please guide us? Yeah, so LGBTQ people may become sort of the default person to ask questions to, and so they may have to do that extra labor at work to be the office, you know, LGBTQ person. Do I list my given name or affirmed name on my resume? Great question. My brother struggles as a trans man when applying for a job. He went to an all-women's college. So did I. I went to Mount Holyoke. So he identifies as male and his resume has an all-women's college. It has been horrible for him. Yes, that is a big issue in women's colleges on how to deal with that exact barrier. As a non-binary elementary school student teacher, just deciding what to get the kids to call me has been a bit nerve-wracking. Yes, this is something I think about because honorifics, they don't really lend much to LGBTQ people unless you're into mixed, that's cool, or you have a doctorate. But what do you call yourself? My students call me Charlotte. That is what I have settled on, and that's what feels most comfortable for me. But for some people, they may want to use an honorific. And what honorific do you use? That's where my brother went to. Yep, Mount Holyoke. Thanks for sharing. Assume that we know everything about the LGBTQ community. Yep, like I said at the beginning, I'm just one person with one experience of queerness and one, experience of my career. I've had a supervisor assume that I'd want the women's uniform, ordered it, and then I had to decide if I wanted to make a fuss to have them reorder the unisex version. Yeah, sometimes LGBTQ people can feel like, oh, am I gonna, put anyone out? Am I gonna bother anyone just by asking for what I need? Because nobody, considered what I needed in the first place. What I needed wasn't already provided, like it might have been for someone else who wasn't LGBTQ. So now I have to do that extra thing of asking and hoping that it's not, annoying. I have a long way to go, but I won't stop. I'm from a rural town where I wasn't exposed to much, but I'm open to criticism and I have messed up. That's a great attitude. Thanks for sharing that. So thank you to everyone who has shared their experiences in the chat. I'd love to hear more, so keep putting them in. We'll keep visiting them as we move on. Okay. So my job is to help LGBTQ students grow and reach their goals. And of course, I work in higher ed, so career development is a major topic for my students. They want to get jobs. And I also want them to get jobs. So I want to tell you a bit about my students. They're the best. They're the best students. They are gay, they are queer, they are trans, they are bi, they are asexual, they're lesbian, pansexual, they're questioning, and they do not apologize for it. They have a strong sense of right and wrong. They believe in and can imagine a better world where they get what they need. They have lofty goals and high aspirations. They are determined, they're ready to learn, and they come to me for help in reaching their goals. But they also bring some barriers and challenges with them in reaching their career goals, and I want to talk about some of them. The first barrier that I come up against when serving my students, all the time this comes up, the closet. They are closeted. Many of my students are closeted, and they need help, but they need help in ways that they will not be detected as an LGBTQ person. So that's that added barrier. How do you help someone without putting them in a position where they may reveal themselves? Maybe it's to another student. Maybe it's to a faculty member. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe they're not comfortable walking into a room that is a dedicated space for LGBTQ people. So that is a barrier that I face. They are trying to negotiate and advocate for their needs without tipping people off that they are LGBTQ, which is an incredibly challenging thing to do. I'm gonna check the chat. I am enjoying this conversation. That's great. Off topic, the State Department just approved US passport applicants to select their own gender, even without medical certification. Thanks for sharing that, Jamie. So the second barrier that I often see in my students, a barrier that they're facing, is that many of them are multiply marginalized. And what I mean by that is that the fact that they are LGBTQ, that's not the only locus of oppression that they're facing. Many of my students are students of color. They're facing racism. They're facing colorism. They're facing anti-Blackness. students with disabilities. I serve poor and low-income students, first-generation college students. Some of my students are estranged from their parents or family members because they're LGBTQ and they were not accepted by their family. And that greatly influences so many things that contribute to student success, like networks and support, family, friends, financial support. A student may not be a first-generation college student. Maybe their parents went to college, but they don't have a relationship with their parents. They don't have somebody to ask questions to. What was college like for you? Or someone to help them, move into their res hall. They don't have those things. So my LGBTQ students, they're facing those extra barriers, and they're facing unique types of oppression that people don't necessarily think about, like being estranged from parents because of identity. My students also express to me a lot that there is a lack of role models who share their gender expression, their sexual orientation, and it's hard for them to find those people who they can really relate to. My students in STEM especially communicate this to me, finding open and out professionals in STEM, people they can talk to, people they can relate to, that's a barrier for them. So I have a list of some examples of problems that students have spoken to me about. I'm going to go through them just to give you an idea of some of the types of things that students come and speak to me about. And if you can relate to any of them, if they resonate with you, throw something in the chat. Tell me something else you've experienced. Tell me if you've heard this before. I'd like to know. So here are some things students have shared with me, a little look on the inside. Some of these are also friends have shared with me, coworkers, anyone LGBTQ navigating the career landscape. So here's a problem. A coworker frequently uses the word queer to describe anything that is strange to her. What would you do? When I walk around my workplace, people frequently refer to me as a lady, but I am not a lady. People say, "Good morning, ladies." To them, that's a polite thing to say. Like, as an assigned female at birth person, I'll be in a group of a lot of assigned female at birth people, and someone will say, "Good morning, ladies." And I had to say, whoa, I don't know if I'm a part of this. Am I a part of this? I think I've just got lumped into something. Someone shared with me, I'm non-binary, and my job requires me to wear a uniform. The dress code is skirts with stockings for women and pants and a shirt for men. I'm not out at work, and everyone perceives me to be a woman. I don't feel comfortable wearing a skirt, but I really need the job. What do I do? That's a conundrum some of my students are facing, and I think someone shared about a similar situation in the chat. Here's one. My girlfriend and I got engaged, and I announced it at our morning staff meeting. I thought people would be happy for me, but instead they asked, "Will you have a real wedding?" I feel alone and misunderstood at work. We spend a lot of time at work, you know. Sometimes we share happy things at work. Sometimes we, want to connect with other people at work. We have those milestones. We want to say, "I got engaged," a normal thing to say at the office, and everyone says congratulations. This person had a very different experience, and that influenced their feeling of belonging at work, their feeling of acceptance at work, and their ability to be successful. I hate when articles say LGBTQ people married their girlfriend. No, they married their fiance. Okay, so language, the different language that we use to describe partners, or is that your friend? Yes. Someone said, "I'm trans and I am finding it difficult to get a job. People don't know how to handle my appearance because I do not pass. Every interview requires an explanation. Things just get awkward and then I don't get the job." Or this one, "My name is different from the one on my ID and birth certificate. I just started a new job and I have to out myself in order to get hired. I'm afraid they won't want to hire me anymore. I don't feel comfortable using the men's or women's restroom at my job. There's an all gender restroom, but it's a 10-minute walk to my office, from my office. I'm afraid if I take up time to walk to and from, I'll get in trouble and out myself to my boss. What should I do? I experience microaggressions at my job, but I really need the money. What can I do to get myself to a better situation? How do I find a workplace that is safe for me? My students are facing incredibly complex situations that don't have easy answers. They're very individualized situations. They're engaging in career exploration and they have big questions and they need resources. That brings me to the question of what do I have and what can I give to my students to help them be ready for career success? So someone sent me a direct message with an anonymous question. I have a question. What is the correct acronym to address the community? LGBTQ, LGBTQ+, LGBTQAI, etc. That's a good question. I don't think there's one answer. At my office is called LGBTQ Programs and Services. That's the official name of my office. When I talk about the LGBTQ community, I often add a plus because I want to make space for the many identities out there, the ones that don't have a word for them yet, people who are often erased from this community, like asexual people, intersex people, some parts of the world saying gender and sexual minorities instead is more popular instead of doing the acronym. If you say LGBTQ, that's fine. LGBTQ+, that's fine. LGBTQAI, that's fine. It just depends on the community you're in and what's accepted among that community. You could be, more comprehensive and add more letters or add the plus or say gender and sexual minorities. But if you say LGBTQ, full stop, I don't think that's wrong. Just one way to say it. Thanks for your question. And if anybody else has an anonymous question, you can just send it direct. And I'll do my best to answer it. Okay. So I want to talk about some barriers to implementation or some challenges that I've had to consider as I've been working with my students. So I work within a system of resources like we all do with time and their constraints. When programming for my students, here are some things I come up against. Here, the closet, again, anonymity. Some of my students may have questions about their careers, but they may not be ready to show up to my office. They may not be ready to come to a workshop where other students may see them. I try to minimize this barrier or address it partially by saying at the beginning of the workshop that allies are welcome in this space, just to give a cover for anybody who doesn't want to say whether they're part of this community or not. But that's something that I'm mindful of. There's also a lack of data around this topic. It's sometimes even hard to know how many LGBTQ students are at a given institution because it requires students to self-report. We can guess, we can estimate, but many students are uncomfortable self-reporting that they're LGBTQ. So that makes it difficult to know how many we have. There's also limited curriculum in this area. There's a serious need for LGBTQ specific career supports, but there are limited resources out there for students looking for help in this area. There's not a large body of programs or research on LGBTQ specific career development resources. And through this program, we're looking to try something new in response to what students have asked for. Any questions so far? Okay, so I have a question that's direct, but I'm going to save it for the end. Based on research, assessment, and the needs of students, the LGBTQ Career Readiness Program at SUNY Geneseo was implemented in spring of 2021. It's brand new. This is a new program that was created in response to student need. We are hoping to keep refining and growing this program as we learn more about effective practices and the needs of our LGBTQ students. The LGBTQ plus Career Readiness Certificate is housed within the Geneseo Opportunities for Leadership Development Program, which is the GOLD program. This certificate is designed to prepare LGBTQ identified college students for the unique challenges they may face in their careers. Those who complete the program will gain essential knowledge and skills for protecting themselves and their career opportunities in the face of discrimination, microaggressions, and self-doubt. Participants will have the opportunity to share fears and challenges with each other in a safe space and will gain guidance from LGBTQ instructors. Workshops can be taken in any order to qualify for the certificate. This program is made up of 4 core workshops, along with 4 workshops of the student's choice from the Career Management Leadership Certificate, which is a total of 8 workshops. Each workshop is 1 hour long, so it's 8 hours. The entire certificate could be completed in 1 semester in theory, if the student would like to, or it can be taken over the course of the student's entire career at Geneseo. Students who complete this program will understand their rights in the workplace, gain strategies for dealing with microaggressions, understand resources and strategies for reporting workplace discrimination, practice challenging conversations, such as coming out at work, explore their personal style as it relates to career wardrobe, network with LGBTQ professionals and organizations, and gain confidence and lifelong career skills. See the chat. So as I said, this program is made up of 4 core workshops. The curriculum for these workshops was designed by me, and I'm also the facilitator. The first workshop is LGBTQ plus bias in the workplace, and these can be taken in any order. Through this workshop, participants will gain a new understanding of their rights as LGBTQ professionals. Participants will learn and practice strategies for addressing bias and discrimination, as well as microaggressions. Participants will also learn about bias reporting systems and organizations available to them. So in this workshop, we go over laws, we go over situations they might come up against, scenarios. We talk about who should you ask for help when you need it, and how can I know if a workplace is safe for me? The next workshop is one of my favorites. The category is LGBTQ career wardrobe. LGBTQ individuals often face particular challenges when cultivating a professional wardrobe, such as balancing style and comfort with the expectations of the workplace. Participants will discuss their unique style challenges when cultivating their career wardrobe. We will cover strategies for understanding a workplace's wardrobe culture, as well as tips for cultivating a wardrobe that is fashionable, professional, and affordable. This one is so much fun. We talk about who is your workplace style icon, and students have so many creative ways of describing their dream work wardrobe. If they had unlimited resources and time, what would you wear to work? And if you have an answer to that question, I would love to see it in the chat. The next workshop that we've developed is Coming Out or Not at Work, Strategies for LGBTQ Professionals. We will gain strategies for assessing LGBTQ friendliness of a workplace. We will understand the costs and benefits of coming out at work. We will cover various situations in which participants may or may not choose to come out, as well as strategies for doing so. So we go over strategies for coming out and also strategies for staying in the closet. If you'd like to be closeted, how do you do it? We talk about where are you most out in your life and where are you least out? And oftentimes the workplace is one of those places where people are the least out. Like I said, I really try not to represent outness as the right option for everyone, as some people want to be closeted and that's their right. But I do hope for my students that they will have access to safe workplaces where they can freely choose to be out and be successful if they would like to. The fourth core workshop is networking as an LGBTQ professional. Participants will learn about the various professional organizations available to LGBTQ people. There are a lot out there. If you haven't looked, just take a minute to Google it. This workshop will also cover strategies for networking and navigating personal and professional relationships within the LGBTQ community. Participants will practice networking with each other, as well as gain a new understanding of their professional identity and goals. This workshop is great because every student leaves the workshop with their own elevator speech about what their career goals are. We practice them all together and we talk about who is someone in our lives that we could do an informational interview with or talk to about what we want our careers to be like. And they all make a plan and practice their elevator speech and pick someone that they're going to go talk to about their career goals. So I'd love to see in the chat which of these workshops are exciting to you and why. I would love to hear. All of them. Oh, that's so nice. My favorite is the category is LGBTQ career wardrobe. Yeah, coming out or not. That's amazing that you created this. Thanks for sharing that, Danielle. Great. We also have elective workshops. And so to complete the program, students must complete 4 of these, and it can be any 4. So these 4 workshops are all from the Career Management Leadership Certificate, which is run by Career Services staff members. So LGBTQ staff members give the 4 core workshops, that would be me, and then Career Services staff members give these other workshops. And any student at Geneseo can take any of these workshops. They're not limited. So students may choose any 4 of these, but I do recommend that all my students at least take resume writing because I want my students to be developing their resume prior to, the week before their graduation. I want them practicing that resume when they're coming into college and keeping track of things and graduating with a comprehensive resume that they're ready to pursue the job hunt. I love all of them. The category is, okay, super important that you acknowledge realistic pros and cons. Yes, we talk about safety a lot in this program because I want my students to be mindful of that. So I have some student feedback. After we have started this program, piloted this program, we have some student feedback. In this workshop, we discuss strategies for coming out at your job and how to identify safe spaces to do so. To identify safe spaces, we should be aware of the conversations had around us and the company's policies. Hearing insulting jokes about LGBTQ people or an absence of out LGBTQ people at the workplace may be a clue that it's an unsafe work environment and it may be better not to come out at this job. In contrast, having multiple LGBTQ people at your workplace, having queer events, or the company having an LGBTQ positive statement may be a good indicator. We talked about paying attention to coworkers, looking for stickers, pins. As for strategies, we talked about finding allies at your job, coming out to one person at work, someone who feels safe first, and going at your own pace based on your individual comfort. I've learned many concepts regarding this topic. At first, we talked about what area of your life are you most out and what area of your life are you least out. I'm most out when I'm near my family and close friends, but I am least out when I'm at work with people I'm not close to. I learned about checking your workplace's safety statements regarding gender. I learned to use symbols around the workplace. Do people make anti-LGBTQ places jokes at work? That's something I look for now. Your safety at work is the most important. It's my first priority. Lastly, I learned about the strategies of coming out or not coming out. There are many ways I can use this content. We learned how to find coworkers and allies who you can talk to and share what you need. You're never forced to come out at a certain time. When coming out, have a support system ready. It's very important to have people there who can help and guide you. And I have some statistics or some preliminary findings about the students who are utilizing this program. We have a diverse body of students who are utilizing this program. We've served biology, history, political science, psychology, and business majors. Students taking advantage of this program have been all class years, but we are especially popular with juniors, as I think those are the ones who are really feeling the pressure for career services. 100% of students who have participated in this program would recommend it to a friend. I like that. 100% of participants also indicated that they would like to see more programming on this topic. There is a very real need out there. This program is still young, and we are hoping to have our first student complete this program next semester. Any questions about student feedback or results, or any question at all? Echoing the question about if these courses are available to people outside of SUNY Geneseo. As it stands right now, these courses are open to anyone with a Geneseo email address, and they are free for students and staff and faculty to take. At this point, that's who they're open to. As far as plans for expanding in the future, we'll see. Right now, we're just starting out piloting this programming, and we'll see where it goes. That's a great suggestion. Thanks for sharing that. Overall, I'm looking forward to watching this program grow and to see more students benefit from it. I also really appreciate that student feedback because it helps guide me curriculum-wise, and I really want these programs to be fun for students. If this training was offered, I would take it. Yeah, I wish I had had this, when I was in college. So I want to talk a bit about moving forward. What can you do after this workshop and after having this conversation? We had some great conversations about the problems, the barriers, the microaggressions that we're facing at work and within our careers. There are so many difficult situations out there that many of us are facing, but are little talked about. Something that you can do is to assess your own institution or community. Does your institution, does your community, does your organization offer LGBTQ specific supports? I'd say every higher education institution has got some type of support for career development, for career services, but are any of them targeted? Are we providing supports that just serve students with the most general challenges? Are we providing the supports that specifically address the unique barriers that our marginalized students are facing? Are we lifting those students who are the most marginalized? Something else that you can do is mentor a young LGBTQ professional. Students tell me all the time, I can't find someone. I don't know any non-binary people who work in my field, and I really would like to meet someone and talk to them about how they have navigated this. If you are open to it, if it's safe for you to be out and to mentor others, I would encourage you to do so. And if you make yourself known to the people in your community that you're available for a coffee, that you're available for a Zoom or a chat to talk about career. You can also be an ally in your workplace. Some of my students report to me that it is exhausting to be the one person at work or at school who mentions about the bathrooms, or who mentions about pronouns, who brings up pronouns, or who makes space for same-sex couples in the office. Don't make the LGBTQ people in your office or in your community be the ones to point out the barriers. That's something that you can do as an ally, is to be an extra set of eyes. You can also educate yourself. There are numerous resources out there for how to talk about the LGBTQ community, how to be an ally to the LGBTQ community. Don't put the burden on the LGBTQ people in your life to explain everything to you. Of course, you can ask questions, but it's also up to you as an ally to put that work in, to read a book or watch a documentary or to find resources so that you can do that work of educating yourself. If you are LGBTQ, you may not have the privilege of not knowing that these issues are happening because they're happening to you. So if you do have the privilege of not experiencing these things at work, you can use that time and energy to advocate for the LGBTQ people in your life and in your workplace. So I am so excited to share this program with you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Spectrum, for having me, and thank you to everyone who participated and shared your experiences in the chat. At this point, I can take any questions that you may have. I know I have some questions in the chat that I haven't answered, so I can go back. But if you have any more questions, please put them in the chat. Do you know if other universities or colleges offer something like this? That's a great question. I did a lot of research when developing this program, and there are major gaps. When it comes to services to assist LGBTQ people with employment, a lot of them are dealing with service jobs, not necessarily dealing with addressing professional careers, but discrimination in service jobs. And so there's a gap in curriculum or in resources for LGBTQ people facing barriers in professional careers. Do you have any recommendations as to how to implement something similar on our campus? Next steps. Yeah, I do have recommendations. Bring it up. Find students and other staff members and faculty members who notice these same gaps and who you can build community and coalition with and collaborate with. Many of these things can be done, or at least I did them, fairly low cost because I came up with the curriculum myself and I facilitate the workshops myself. And that made it, an accessible choice and something that I could do without as many barriers such as cost or time. And it's something that I'm personally passionate about. So it was very exciting for me to do. So what I would recommend is to ask questions, find people who also care about this. You can email me and we can talk about it. We can Zoom. And so those are all things that you can do. What do these sessions look like? Great question. This last semester, all of the workshops were done through Zoom because of COVID. And next semester, they will be in person. That's what I'm planning for. But how they look is the students come. Normally, I would say there's about 15, the max is 25 per session, I think, for the core workshops, but it's not normally that many. Normally, the students who come all pretty much know each other because that's just sort of the queer community at Geneseo. So there's a collaborative spirit in the room, and it's a comfortable environment. We talk about our fears. I usually start with a question that gets students thinking about, I like to hear about students' creativity. If you could wear anything to work, if you could have any job, if you could find any mentor, who would that be? And those are some of the questions that I use, some open-ended questions to get students talking. Do you do training with the career staff? Do you train the career staff who teach the electives? Great question. I personally do not. The electives are open to any student and they're not LGBTQ focused. Only the core workshops are LGBTQ focused. I have gone through the curriculum in the other workshops to assess for LGBTQ competency. We do offer safe zone training, and while it's not a requirement, I think the career staff are trained in safe zone, so they have that idea of language and some of the concepts that they may need to use in these workshops. Any more questions? Is there a course for educators to make them more knowledgeable to teach LGBTQ students? That's a great question. I would suggest looking into your institution or workplace to see if there is a Safe Zone program. You can also find them online, free Safe Zones that you can do at your own pace. You can go to the Safe Zone website and utilize the worksheets on there. There are lots of great guides online too if you need help. I grew up in a small town with little to no experience with the LGBTQ community. I want to learn more and be more experienced to become an ally, but I know and understand so little that I'm afraid of hurting someone or being rejected by my lack of knowledge. I also don't want to make this conversation about me. What do you recommend? I recommend to keep doing what you're doing and asking questions, recognizing that you may not always know the right thing to say or the right thing to do, but that is a great place to be because it's a place where growth can happen. I would recommend going online and looking for resources, reading books, attending LGBTQ events, workshops, talks in your area or online to learn new things, and to surround yourself with all different kinds of people. Any other questions? This was excellent. Thank you. Well, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. You can also email me directly if you think of something later. Thank you so much for being an excellent audience. It was great to be here. And at this point, I'd like to pass it back to Phil. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charlotte. That was a great session with so much important information, and I think everyone is echoing that in the chat. So thank you again. Our next session will begin tomorrow at 12 o'clock, Getting by Unpacking Biphobia and Reducing Disparities. So can leave the chat open for a couple minutes longer, but I hope everyone has a good night. And if you go on social media, please use the hashtag SUNY Spectrum. So thanks again, Charlotte.